Ladies and gentlemen, Mykki Blanco.
James Elder, are you here? James, are you here? James, are you here? James Elder? You have to tell your brother you didn't come to my show. Tell your brother you didn't come to my talk. It's funny because I wasn't trying to avoid James, but I had this idea that this is my best friend's little brother. I know him, and I had this idea that like I was gonna be here, and then I'd end up with James doing like bong rips somewhere, and like it's so really like wouldn't have been a good thing. Okay, I'm sorry. I just realized the internet kicked off my Here we go. All right. Okay. So, at least you guys can like hear me right now without the microphone. But so this is a really interesting time for me right now to be doing this because I am in a bit of a transition in my life where I've been doing like music stuff for just like 3 years, and I'll just say it. So I've been doing music stuff for like about 3 years, but I kind of like fell into it. Like when you like kind of fall into something and it works, and then you just kind of do it because it works. So and you do it because you enjoy it, and it's like awesome or whatever. But that was kind of like me in music. Like I just kind of like did it, and then it like worked, and then I was like doing it, but that didn't necessarily mean that I wanted to do that. And so then it became this kind of like paralyzing thing where I started to feel like, especially because, I did not start to do music until I was 26. No, sorry, that's not true, 25. 25. 26 is when things started to kick off. But I didn't start doing music until I was like 25, 26. And then I turned 29 this past weekend. So I started to have all these thoughts, it's like, hey, like, what if I got hit by a car? Or like, what if I just like don't feel like doing this anymore? All these agents and these publicists and these people that work and do this stuff, it's like they'll still have their job, but what will I have for myself? So I'm kind of going through a lot of things right now where it's like I have these other interests and they have a lot to do with writing and with the returning poetry and it's a really interesting time because it's like I am still Mykki Blanco, but what happens when you're an entertainer, particularly the kind of entertainer I was, is that you have a very strong public image. And so then your public image becomes basically almost like this lock and key, It's like you don't usually know who Mykki Blanco is unless Mykki Blanco looks like this, and you don't know who Mykki Blanco is unless Mykki Blanco talks about a certain thing. And for my own livelihood, as a mature adult, and for my career and for everything that I hope to do in the world, I kind of had to pause on that because it's like, I am myself, and this character, this person, like myself, can grow as well, and I might have to distance myself from this one idea in order to grow into another and then come back to it. So, I originally, when they approached me, was going to do, just a typical, rap performance that I've done with so many other shows. But recently, in the last year especially, I've been able to engage with different colleges and do different discussions. We had a discussion at Dartmouth. I did one just in January at Rocky Mountain College of Art here in Denver. And I've just been able to kind of like flex a different muscle that's been really healthy for me, as well as kind of coming full circle with a lot of things because I made some statement the other week that was like, I'm quitting music to focus on journalism. And the truth of the matter was is that I had to make that declaratory of a statement because had I not made that declaratory of a statement, people from the Walker Museum or people from these different media outlets, okay, that have now reached out to me about writing wouldn't have done that because they just saw me as one other thing, you know what I mean? So sometimes you have to be a little dramatic to get your way in the world. But I'm not quitting music. I'm just like doing other things. And to be honest, if I did quit music, I mean, don't we already have Drake, right? We don't need like somebody was like, why are you quitting music? I'm like, no, don't we have enough like rappers and stuff? So you know what I mean? It's like so whatever. So okay. So let me just read this. Can you hear me better? Can you hear me better like this? I don't know. Okay, I guess this is better. Okay. So first of all, I want to thank University of Colorado at Boulder. I want to thank Kathy and Jennifer and just this is a cool thing to be a part of. All right. From the silence of Duchamp to the noise of boys is the title of my first and so far only book that was published on June 17th, 2011 by Oh Wow Gallery and Books. It is a book of narrative poetry and the place of work that single-handedly began my career in music. Held inside the Rattlestick Playwrights Theater on Waverly Place in New York City, New York, my performance of the poetical contents of my new broadside was a mixture of the over-the-top theatrical dramaturgy I had learned in childhood acting classes, walking the thin and delicate line between in-your-face and obnoxious monologue one-man show, all the while carrying the performance through with the amped-up energy of a rock and roll time bomb, or so I'd like to think. So before I started doing music at all, I wrote this book called From the Silence of Duchamp to the Noise of Boys, and I had this punk rock little performance thing I would do called No Fear, and so let me do this for you guys real quick. From the silence of Duchamp to the noise of boys. From the silence of Duchamp to the noise of boys. From the silence of Duchamp to the noise of boys. From the silence of Duchamp to the noise of boys. From the silence of Duchamp to the noise of boys. From the silence of Duchamp to the noise of boys. And well, you brought your 4 eyes and all the acid to the hotel. Oh, hell. You're a freak, jerk. You're a pale runt standing in the corner. I see you standing in the corner, man. He's mocking Lou Reed. And well, he gabbered like a badger bitch when that boy took a swig of his whiskey. My lord, he's a freak jerk. Yeah, I said, my lord, he's a freak jerk. And well, all of us a litter in the bed. Oh man, we're all in the bed. I said all of us a litter in the bed. Well, man, I look over and someone's moving up and down, shivering with shock, standing on the dresser, whispering Ginsberg, lighting whole matchbooks, peeling the wallpaper. My lord, freak jerk. Yeah, man, I said you brought your 4 eyes and all the acid to the hotel. Oh, hell. Oh, baby, you're a freak jerk. And let me tell you about it, man. I said he'll jerk you around, and he'll jerk you around, and he'll jerk you around, and so I started doing these, like kind of aggressive, like influenced by no wave, kind of poetical things, and I'll do another one. It's called Chinatown. We were in that weird ass part of Chinatown, you know, looking for something to do, just fucking around. Well, there's a certain kind of humidity that seems to take over me. And I get so horny I can't seem to concentrate or think. Well, there's a party over on Spring Street. I hear it's Ray Smith's. Well, I know I can keep my money on me because Ray Smith's is usually well spent. I I walked over to the corner. I poked fun at the guys. They always seem to want to mess with chicks who are used to fellas whose pockets are a bit wide. And while I danced a bit, I called Smith's quits. I ran down Lafayette Street in an adrenaline blitz. You know, I told everyone I was going home, but I went west to get my prick licked. And well, $3 and a hole in the wall, I was back in action. I went over to the Second Ave dive, man, just to see what was happening. And well, closing time, a singer in a band, a socialite's kid sister, and a French socialite. We were off to some actresses' hotel suite, feeling sweet in the endless night. And well, I don't know too much about in crowds, but I know I like to hang out downtown. And well, I don't know too much about in crowds, but I know I like to hang out downtown. And well, I don't know too much about in crowds, but I know I like to hang out downtown. And well, I don't know too much about in crowds, but I know I like to hang out downtown. And so, it started with that kind of thing. And yeah, it's so funny because that poem is actually about going to Lindsay Lohan's hotel room at the Bowery Hotel, and and we found her there. Lindsay was being actually she was on really good behavior that time. She was doing all the drugs in the bathroom, so we couldn't gossip about her. Um, so I have dropped out of college twice, both times with 2 full scholarship rides to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago and to Parsons School of Design. I knew after dropping out the second time that I'd better try it and use what I knew I was good at and make it work in the art world because I was potentially facing a decade of hospitality work that I knew that I was not cut out to do. Now here was the big dilemma. How was I going to get people to listen to my poetry? This wasn't an obstacle, it was a challenge. And so I did what most people, I think, begin to do when they're trying to figure out the right channel and medium for their message. I looked to history. New York had the lineage that connected all my dots, the rock and roll poetry of Patti Smith, Tom Verlaine, all these beautiful beatific punks, principal players in the modern literary canon such as Bob Kaufman, Mina Loy, John Giorno, Sylvia Plath, Pablo Neruda, and noise rock pioneers like the duo Suicide. Suicide, for me, like so many art rock obsessed dilettantes in their early 20s, was the end all be all of cool. 2 freaks spouting poetry like death metal lyrics over white noise and non noise. And I thought, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll take my poems and I'll make them into these little half songs and like these little spoken word monologues, and that'll be the whole entire thing. So around the time that I was doing this, a rapper named Nicki Minaj became really, really popular. And what became even more popular at the time than Nicki Minaj was her feud with Lil' Kim, who had been, up until that point, the undisputed queen of rap. And so I was sitting, one day, like in my little studio, like doing something artsy, and and I was like, man, this Nicki Minaj she's really fucking coming for Lil' Kim's head. And I was like, and Kim's kind of not doing a good job of defending herself. And I think that a lot of people when a new artist comes into the fold, they're like, well, let me stick close to the person I know. So to be honest, I started Mykki Blanco really as a defense of Lil' Kim because it seemed like at the time, like all her fire,
all the words she had, all the things that made Little Kim fans love Little Kim. It all seemed like they were gone, and it was like, well, who's gonna defend you? You know what I mean? So Mickey Blanco, honestly, the first initial idea of Mickey Blanco came as like this defense of Kim, because the name Mickey Blanco actually comes from Little Kim's mixtape name, which is Kimmy Blanco. So that's how it all began. Then, uh, basically, I kind of had the idea where I was like, okay, well, Mickey's gonna be in high school. She's gonna be like this teenage girl, and she's gonna have aspirations of being a rapper, but she's not gonna be a rapper. Okay, it's gonna be like I'm gonna keep it as a conceptual art project. And then that kind of didn't work because I started performing and I started writing, and things just kind of like became everything that they are or were or are. But this is a song, actually. It's a Mickey Blanco song that I've never recorded, and it might show up on my album that I'm working on, kind of. But the song sums up a lot of things about me, and this song in particular has a lot to do with recoding and recontextualizing language. And the song is called Scales.